I don't want to get away from this, but you called this season that Ty Gibbs would win a race before Zilich and Hocevar.
I did.
And
Yeah.
you nailed that. So
Yeah, I think we're only a race or two in. Oh, thanks. But
good
no,
job.
he just looked racier this year. And Zilich, I still want to say that Zilich will win a race before Hocevar. I think if I were a driver out there and I had the chance to just knock him out of the way to win, I'd probably do that. Welcome to From the Pits, part of the Mildly Alarmed podcast. I'm Nina. This is Justin. And we're just two NASCAR fans from Raleigh, North Carolina, here to talk about everything happening in the sport this week. And we've got a lot to talk about this week because I don't know about you, but I had a lot of fun at the last great Coliseum, Bristol Motor Speedway.
It was Bristol,
What do you
baby.
think, Justin?
It was Bristol, baby. I have a lot of opinions. Bristol was the most exciting racetrack on the schedule. It was the one that I've told you, fans who had tickets to Bristol would leave them in their will because it was the hardest ticket in sports to get because it was the most electrifying race. It was the most exciting race. It was too wide. It was bumping and banking. It was donuts in the door. It was where the bump and run was basically created. I mean, it was excitement for 500 laps, lap after lap, those high bake turns, incredible speeds for the track size that it was. And then something happened. They repaved the track and the racing disappeared. And it just seems like we have been trying to get back to a product, a package that was exciting and was fun to watch. And today I feel like we were there. Like, I think there's still work to do. Something that I think I would have liked to seen in this race was the tires held up for way too long. So for new NASCAR fans, the tire package that they have, they will eventually degrade, and it was clearly laying down rubber on the track, but it wasn't doing it. They were lasting too long. I think it would have been better because they could run 120 around there laps on a set of tires. I feel like the racing might have been better had that been shorter, if the tire would have fallen apart faster, because then you would have had more comers and goers. You would have had people having to take care of their tires more. I mean, because the winner of the race today was able to win that race on very old tires compared to the two that were chasing him down who had fresher tires, because of the caution that came out late. But overall, I thought the race was super exciting. I thought it was one of the best Bristol races I have seen in a long time.
And to be clear, we're talking about the Cup race that happened today.
Yes, the Cup race.
Yeah.
The Cup race. It was to me, it was the best Bristol race that I have seen in quite some time.
I would agree. I've seen probably 5 or 6 of them now. I agree. I wish there was a little bit more tire fall off. However, I also saw one of the races where they made a dramatic tire change.
Yes.
And that was a freaking shit show. So
that was.
There does need to be a mid-ground in there between tires last forever and tires fall off 5 seconds after you pull out of the pits.
Indeed. I think a happy medium between that. So what you're talking about, there was a race at the Bristol night race, which they run in August. For whatever reason, the cooler temperatures at Bristol with the tire that they had would come apart so much faster, and the tire would literally shred to pieces in 30 to 40 laps. So the drivers had to adapt, and the ones that could save their tires more, not driving as hard and keeping the rubber there, were able to do better in that race than the ones who went super hard at the beginning, because they would, all of a sudden, their tires would come apart. They did it in the spring race a few years ago, and it did it in the fall race, what's considered the fall race, at night later, and it was the colder temperatures. Today it was super hot. I think the track temp was over 100 degrees, so you weren't going to have that, so the tire held up. But I thought the racing groove, so they put that PJ1 down on the bottom lane. It's like a sticky residue that's going to help the cars grip the track. That created solid racing on the bottom, and then as the race went on, as that tire wear washed up the track, it started actually creating a second groove to where cars could then start running high. That's when the racing really got good. Now, old school Bristol, I saw a little bit of that in the first run, because old school Bristol was like a one lane track, and what made that exciting was that the only way to pass a car was to run them over and knock them out of the way. And that's what created the excitement of Bristol. We saw a little bit of that in the first part, but I really did enjoy when that second line came through, because you had 2-3 wide racing on those little turns. And I thought that created some pretty awesome racing. We saw some great racing up at the front. We saw some lead changes. And that's just something that we haven't seen in a while. The last couple of races, the driver who won Bristol was able to get out front and just lead pretty much the whole thing uncontested.
Yeah.
But we did not see that today. It wasn't a snooze.
We didn't. It wasn't. And we definitely did see a lot more of the good old bump and run, as they call it, this time around, which was pretty cool. I know you and I were both rooting for Ryan Blaney, mostly because there was no way Denny Hamlin was getting anywhere up there, and Bubba Wallace wasn't doing much either.
Ran 10th all day.
Much to my mother's chagrin.
Yeah.
But even so, it was cool to see Ty Gibbs win his first race.
That's right.
And in such a fashion where he had to beat out Larson. He had to beat out Blaney. Those are probably two of the best race car drivers on the track,
and
or,
do it with old
in
tires.
The world, as they like to say about Larson.
Yeah.
And on older tires,
do it
as
with
you
old
mentioned.
Tires.
He did a great job today, Ty Gibbs. And I think you and I, somewhat surprisingly, have become bigger fans of Joe Gibbs racing in the past 6 months, largely due to the 2311 trial against NASCAR. Some things came out that made us see Joe Gibbs racing in a different light, and Joe Gibbs himself in a different light, and that entire operation. But it makes you wonder, Ty Gibbs isn't running so well since it was his crew chief, right? That changed.
Competition director, he was a crew chief, but then he moved over to more of a management role on that team. Actually might have been his crew chief. Yeah, it might have been his crew chief.
I can't remember it was Chris Gapehart, right?
Chris Gapehart. He had a very significant role on that team from an engineering perspective. I think he was setting up the car, and he was working with Ty Gibbs, and things just were not going well.
No.
And there was kind of some talk that he might have been a spoiled little kid and wasn't willing. And maybe it turns out that it wasn't Ty Gibbs. It was
Ty Gibbs was not the problem.
He was not the problem. Yeah. Maybe it was Chris Gabehart that was actually the problem. I'm starting to think. This is just my opinion. But if you look at the way Ty Gibbs has run early in his career, I mean, it wasn't good. I mean, Ty Gibbs was a driver who won a ton of races in the O'Reilly Series and won a championship in the O'Reilly Series. And then he finally gets the chance to go drive for Gibbs. And a lot of people will say things like, he was a silver spoon kid, because Gibbs is his the guy who owns the team, Joe Gibbs, is his grandpa. So he's going to get to the Cup Series regardless of whether he was good or not, right? But he gets that opportunity and there's nothing happens with it. I mean, he runs terribly. And this year, though, there was a lot of talk of what was going to happen now that Chris Gabehart was gone. Well, then Chris Gabehart gets in trouble. He's got all these legal things now with him giving information, Joe Gibbs information, allegedly giving, secret setups and information that they were doing at Joe Gibbs over to Spire, which is where when he went over to the other team, Spire Motorsports, and he was secretly feeding them information and those kinds of things, allegedly again. But it turns out that maybe he was the problem, because now that he's got a new crew chief, he's been running great. Like all season long, he's been running great. We've seen a new Ty Gibbs, a friendlier looking Ty Gibbs.
Yeah, I mean, I had because I only got started in racing a couple of years ago with you, and you told me a little bit about Ty Gibbs, and just being at the track, you don't see a ton of Ty Gibbs stuff. You see some, but the perception from the fans generally, I think, is the silver spoon perception that he's just like an entitled little spoiled brat. But what I've seen since I started watching with you is the battle that he did last year between him and Ty Dillon at the end for charity. And he was very polite and nice and generous in his speech there when he won that.
Yeah, he was cool.
He's done some other interviews where he's come across pretty humble, and he just seems happier this year.
He does.
In general.
He really does.
And, there could be other things going on in his life, but from an outside observer's perspective, which we have no inside industry knowledge besides what we read, it does seem like the changes on the team were extremely beneficial for him and his career this year.
Yeah. He's I mean, the results are showing. Had a great run today. I was torn because my man Blaney was, had a super awesome race car, started on the pole and kind of faded back. Larson really showed his strength early, and I was getting worried because I thought it was going to be another domination show by Larson. I thought he was going to run away with it like he typically has done at Bristol in the last couple of years. But as they kind of worked on the car to that halfway point, Blaney really started making a turn and it was kind of fighting his way back up to the front, and it became clear that Blaney had the faster car as the race progressed. And then, that caution coming out there at the end, I think if the caution doesn't come out the first time with like 20 to go or something like that, if that caution doesn't come out, I think Blaney wins the race. Gibbs was running him down, but I don't think Gibbs has the car to get around Blaney if the caution doesn't come out. So the caution comes out, Blaney comes into the pits with Larson. Blaney gets 4 tires. Larson gets 2 tires. Ty Dillon doesn't get any tires. He said on the radio, he goes, I don't want to give up track position. And I remember scratching my head being like, dude's going to drop like a rock. He didn't though. They get the restart. He's running the outside. Blaney's wrapping the bottom. Blaney can't pass him. Now, if Riley Herbst doesn't spin out at the end of the race because Kyle Busch just was like, screw you, buddy, just drives through him. If the caution doesn't come out at the end of the race, I think Blaney does get around him.
Maybe, but let's not forget though that Blaney's pit crew screwed him over
every
time he came into pit lane.
Yeah.
I mean, every race we've seen this year, like the man basically has to outrun his pit crew in order to win a race.
I think,
to be honest, if like anyone who ever listens to this knows someone at Penske who can explain to us why Ryan Blaney has the worst pit crew there, yes, I would love to know why. Like, I think Ty Gibbs, he was looking racy all day. He was looking fast all day. I do think Blaney had the best car, but man, something's got to happen on his pit crew.
Ryan Blaney's biggest competition in NASCAR is his own pit crew.
Yeah.
I think Larry McReynolds said something Sunday during the race that he has lost over 80 spots. 80 positions have been lost on pit road alone, yet they always talk about how Blaney passes the most cars of any driver. And it's because he's constantly having to overcome the mistakes that his own crew makes on pit road. There were so many times during the race that Blaney would come in to the pits, the leader, and would leave in second or third place. I mean, it was just a fourth. It was awful. It was awful. Ty Gibbs actually had to overcome some stuff today. Early in the race, he did not have the car, and he fell all the way back to like 17th, 18th position and slowly worked his way all the way back up. So that just shows you, that's another reason why I really like this race, is that there was passing. There wasn't a lot of riding around, and good drivers with good cars, good handling cars were able to make their way up, because everybody looked extremely loose today or during the race. You could see them like wiggling around a bunch, and the tail was wagging there in the back of the car. So, I mean, they were pretty loose. It was pretty slick out there, is what it looked like.
It definitely seemed to be that way. But, I mean, it was nice to see it looking racy at Bristol today. It also looked pretty racy last night at the O'Reilly race.
Yes.
And congrats to Connor Zilisch on that one, because he finally won a race this year.
Yeah, I know.
Poor guy.
I feel bad for Connor, because Connor Zilisch is a super talented kid. I mean, he is a kid, because he's still got spots, but he to go out last year and win 10 races, and let's be real, the championship. I know that he didn't end up winning the championship, but he is the champion. Let's be honest. Let's be real.
He should have been. Yeah.
He's the champion. I know Jesse Love won the championship, but he's the champion. But we'll all say Jesse Love is the champion.
For the two Jesse Love fans out there.
Jesse Love won the championship, but Connor Zilisch is the champion. Anyway, I feel bad for him because, he wins. It's kind of what Joey Logano faced when Joey Logano first came into the sport, where everybody was calling him sliced bread because he was the best thing since, because he was winning everything, and he just didn't know how to lose. And then he gets to the Cup Series, and it is a drastically different thing when you get there. And Connor Zilisch is finding that out. Now, I don't think that is all his fault. I think, as a whole, that team that he is on, Trackhouse, they have struggled. None of their cars are performing all that well. So, there's that. But, it was good to see Zilich return to the O'Reilly series and not dominate, because I wouldn't say it was a dominating performance. I mean, he ran kind of in the top 10 all day long, but, Kyle Larson was the dominating force. He was
sure.
whooping him. And then, Zilich gets track position and is able to hold off Larson. So Larson, 2 dominating performances over the weekend, but comes up short in both
Poor
for
guy.
the best driver in the world. But Zilich did awesome, and it was good to see. And it continues Junior Motorsports, winning. Their tradition of winning this season. I think they've only lost 1 race, and it was the race in Rockingham to William Sawalich since the season started. So what a performance there. But it was good to see. Now, speaking of Zilich, I don't want to get away from this, but you called this season that Ty Gibbs would win a race before Zilich and Hocevar.
I did.
And you nailed that. So.
Yeah, I think we're only a race or 2 in. Oh, thanks. But no, we, he just looked racier this year. And Zilich, I still want to say that Zilich will win a race before Hocevar. I think if I were a driver out there and I had the chance to just knock him out of the way to win, I'd probably do that. So I still don't really see him winning before Zilich. I think Zilich drives like a decent human being and a heads-up driver. I still kind of expect Zilich to win first. Hocevar might luck into it, run away with one, but
Zilich just has a lot to learn. I mean, the Cup Series is an entirely different beast. It is the best drivers that stock car racing has to offer. The competition level is really high there.
Yeah,
it is not like the O'Reilly Series where there are 10 good drivers. All of them are really good. Even the drivers that are, if you take the 35th place Cup driver and you put them in the O'Reilly Series or the Truck Series or ARCA Series, they are going to win that race 9 times out of 10 because they are the best. And I think, Zilich has a ton of talent, but he hasn't raced with these guys. And these guys have been, these are the best. And I think it's just going to take him a little time to understand how to race in this league. But there is a phenomenon that happens, and I talk about it a lot to you, is that when a driver struggles to win a first race, and this is what'll be interesting to keep an eye on with Ty Gibbs, is that a driver will struggle early in their career to win their first race. It'll take sometimes a year, sometimes 2 to win their first race. But as soon as they win their first race, something happens in a driver's mind. And then all of a sudden, it just seems like the next win comes easier and faster. So Ty Gibbs might not be done winning this year. I don't know if it's a confidence thing. I don't know. I'm not a racer. But if something just flips in their mind, I've seen it for my whole life watching this, is that when a driver gets their first win, you can almost expect the next one to come within a few weeks, and just more so. So now that Ty Gibbs has got that out of the way, he understands that he knows how to win these races now. He might not be done.
Yeah, I think we could definitely see that. I think the only thing, to be honest, that will hold Zilich back is the car that he's driving.
Yeah, the team has struggled.
I think he'll eventually figure it out, but we saw him look pretty racy on the first road course this year, but his car was never going to do it. There was just no way to get that car to the front.
And even SVG, that Shane Van Gisbergen, SVG, even he struggled on the first road course of this year, and he was running really well. I mean, he was in second place, but he is a dominating force on these road course races. And even he wasn't the SVG you're kind of used to seeing. Now, admittedly, he was like, Coda is my worst road course. And he finishes second. So, I mean, we'll see what happens when he gets to, Infineon and Watkins Glen and the new street course in San Diego.
Yeah.
We'll see how he runs there. But yeah, I think Trackhouse as a whole, if Zilich had a better car, perhaps, maybe he would be running well. But, even Chastain, who typically runs better than the other Trackhouse cars, really didn't have a good showing today. He didn't finish in the top 10. He ran there for a little bit, but then faded.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how all those drivers do in the future. We've got a couple other things to talk about this week. Some NASCAR news hit this week. One, Cletus not approved for Talladega.
Yeah, I honestly think that's the right call. As much fun as it would have been seeing Cletus run in the O'Reilly Series at Talladega, that's a bad idea. I mean, it's a bad idea. I mean, no, he barely was able to keep his car under control at Rockingham,
Mm-hmm.
made a lot of silly mistakes. Putting him at Talladega, although the track would be easier to drive than Rockingham was, putting him at Talladega, I think would be a bad idea just because of the other cars on the track and how they're in the big pack and he's going to be pushing on someone's bumper and bump drafting them at close to 200 miles per hour.
Yeah.
Someone bump drafting him and him knowing how to receive that shot in the ass when you're going that fast and what to do with a run when you get a run and how to manage that speed when you're coming up to the guy behind you. Bad idea. He would cause the big one. I mean, and when he was at Daytona and in the Truck Series, he spun out on his own because he got 3 wide and lost the air and didn't know what to do when you get into that situation. It just spun out. So Talladega could be a really bad idea. However, he is going to run at Kansas in the ARCA series, and that's what he needs to do. He needs to run more ARCA races. He needs to run more truck races and just kind of pump the brakes on the whole O'Reilly thing for a little bit. So I don't disagree with the statement to put Cletus out at Talladega. I don't disagree with it.
Yeah, I can't say that I do either. I would be worried for him. I mean, we've seen some pretty gnarly things go down at that track at Daytona. You know, Priest is always flying through the air at Daytona.
Yeah.
And many people are smashing their cars up at Talladega. I think they have a graveyard to prove it.
I think Priest is working on his pilot's license because he's got enough airtime at Talladega and Daytona that I think he could get his wings.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I look forward to, seeing Cletus run. And to be honest, Cletus running more ARCA races is just going to elevate that league because I can't remember the last time I cared about an ARCA race. And, with Cletus out there, I want to watch the race. So that's going to bring eyeballs to the ARCA series, which severely needs help. And he could be the perfect guy to help that. The O'Reilly series doesn't need help right now. I mean, it does. And he doesn't need to be out there with those guys just yet.
Yeah, no, I agree. It would be great to see the ARCA series come back a little bit. Because I know you and I have been to a few ARCA races now just to watch Cletus.
Yes.
As have several other fans.
Yeah.
From the just cheers in the stands, you can kind of tell who they're rooting for. So it would be cool to see that race series kind of come back in a way. Mm-hmm. Thanks to Cletus. The other news, I think, is more of a rumor, not an announcement. But there is a rumor that Kyle Busch may be retiring after Daytona next year.
Yeah, I started hearing this.
Not totally surprising if that is, in fact, true, because he seems kind of fed up with the whole thing.
If I was him, I'd be pretty frustrated. Kyle Busch every week had a chance to win the race. Great race car driver, has won a ton of races, has won some championships, ton of speed there. Most of that, actually, all of that, was done at Joe Gibbs Racing. And when he left Joe Gibbs Racing and went over to RCR, that's when the problems began. And things just have not turned around there. He has not been able to turn that program around. And every week he is just out there making laps. And I can't imagine what it would be to go from winning multiple races a year, double-digit races a year, to, just kicking everyone's ass to getting your ass kicked every single week. He's got a son coming up who's doing a lot of racing. He wants to be there. He has a lot of his son and his whole family has a big Instagram presence, but they're making a lot of Instagram videos about his son who's racing late models and those kinds of things, and he's coming up through the ranks and winning. So I think he wants to be there to do that, and honestly, he'd probably have more fun doing that. So if it is true, if he is leaving, and I think that is the case, that is going to be crazy just not having any Busch brothers at all in the field. That's an end of an era. No Kurt Busch. Kurt Busch hung it up because of concussion injuries, and then Kyle Busch hanging it up just due to not having any fun. I can't imagine he's having any fun doing that anymore. I mean, driving a race car for a living would be fun, but if you're used to winning every week, driving a race car to finish just can't be that fun. Would you agree?
For sure. I mean, he does have some of the funniest radio comments we've ever heard, so I'll miss that. The compilations of Kyle Busch swearing up a storm just for all the shitty things that have happened to him while he's been in a race car have been incredible. So I'll miss that.
Yeah, after listening to this podcast, please go on YouTube and find compilations of Kyle Busch on interviews and his radio. You will be entertained. It's amazing. It's amazing. But yeah, no, I think it's a good move. I don't think he's going to be the kind of guy who wants to finish out his career like Darrell Waltrip did, or Dale Jarrett did, or Bill Elliott did. I think he wants to, because it is happening to him. I mean, he is finishing out his career that way. So I think, like kind of like Rusty Wallace always talked about, Rusty Wallace went out when he knew it was time. Like he didn't want to be the guy who was like just riding around who used to be good. And so for that reason, I think, if Kyle Busch doesn't get a win this year, might be time to move on.
Agreed. Any predictions about who they put in that car?
Ooh, yeah. So it would be RCR. So Cletus McFarland. No, I think it would be down between Jesse Love and Austin Hill. Austin Hill is probably owed it, but I think I would give it to Jesse Love because he's young and I feel like there is more I could get longevity-wise out of Jesse Love.
Maybe, but don't you think Austin Hill would have a better chance of winning in that car?
Definitely at the plate races. Well, drafting tracks are not plate races anymore. So stupid. But yeah, drafting tracks. I think Austin Hill would be a good choice. I don't know. I think I would have to make them fight it to the death. Which one of you two wants it the most? Maybe we would take them both to the track. I would take Jesse Love and Austin Hill to the track, and I'd both put them in a car, and I'd have them do a 50-lap race, and then whoever finished in first in that race, I'd be like, all right, you win. Your ride is yours. I don't know, but I think it would be one of those two. I don't think they go and get a random driver from another team to come over and drive their car for them. I think they would promote from the O'Reilly series, call one of them up, and put them in the seat. What they actually need to do, here's what they need to do, is that they need to get rid of Kyle Busch and Austin Dillon, open up all the seats at the team, and put both Austin Hill and Jesse Love in the cars is what they need to do. They need to understand that Austin Dillon is never going to be the driver that team needs, and Kyle Busch is ready to quit. So wipe the slate clean and start over with two very talented drivers who drive for you on Saturday in the O'Reilly series. Put Austin Hill and Jesse Love in that, just bring them both up, and then put new drivers in those seats. Cletus McFarland in one of those seats, evidently, is what we're doing now. So put Cletus in one of the O'Reilly seats full time, and then find some other driver to drive the car. If I was Richard Childress, if I was Richard Childress, this is what I would do. But I'm not Richard Childress.
Cletus would be a disaster, though.
Yeah, but how entertaining would that be? How entertaining of a disaster would that be? And I would move merch. I would sell so many T-shirts.
You would sell a ton of merch. That's very true.
Merch. Yeah, that's what
All right. Well, we got Kansas next week. Any Kansas predictions?
Yes, Kansas is going to be a fun race for all you new race fans who have made it through this conversation this long. Kansas is one of the better tracks on the schedule. It is a really fun race, very fast, multiple lines of racing, multiple passing opportunities. Again, Kyle Larson's always really good there. Denny Hamlin's really good there. People who can ride the wall are pretty good, and I do mean ride the wall. If you can get close enough to the wall, like this far off of it, and run there all day long, you can really do well. We saw Bubba Wallace run really well there until his boss took him out. So who knows? I do think that Ryan Blaney is going to want revenge, so I think we should pay attention to that. But I think the Toyotas are going to be the cars to beat going into Kansas. So yeah, I think that's what we look for. Tyler Reddick's going to be strong. Is anyone to catch him?
Yeah.
So he still has a 62-point lead over second place Ryan Blaney. That's one race victory over second place. So it's a pretty sizable lead.
It is. I think winning gets you a lot of points this year.
It does.
So Ryan Blaney wins a few more races. I think we might see somebody catch or pass him. But I like those predictions for Kansas. It might cause a fist fight in our house if we see a Denny Hamlin, a Bubba Wallace situation again.
Yes.
But we'll see what happens.
I know. That can get sticky.
All right. Anything else we got for today?
No, I think that's everything we need to go racing for Kansas. I think we got what we got. We run what we brung.
All right. Well, as always, please leave us a comment, like, or subscribe, especially if you made it this far. I mean, come on. You made it. We talked a lot this week, so you made it real far. I'm
about to say, please give us the chance. Please give me the chance to show you why NASCAR is the most exciting sport out there. Please give me the chance. If you listen to us every week, please give me the chance to tell you the tale of why racing is the most exciting sport in the world.
I mean, you made me a believer, so I'm sure you can bring around a couple of people too.
Yeah, let's watch Kansas together. Let's all watch Kansas together. Let's do it. It's going to be a good race.
Exactly. All right. Well, we'll be back next week. New episodes every Tuesday at 6 a.m. on Spotify, YouTube, and YouTube Music. Until next time.
Take it easy.